My wife had a mental breakdown when I left her alone with the kids. 5 days ago, my wife, 25 female, gave birth to our second child, our daughter, and then our son, 3 male, came home 2 days later. For the past 5 days, I, 25 male, have put myself on a baby duty every night and giving my wife a full night's sleep, as well as getting the kids up and ready for the day. Yesterday morning, I'd gotten the kids ready to go out after pulling another all-nighter. I don't mind it as it gives me some one-on-one time with the baby girl and gives me a chance to get my run back with Radan, as well as give my wife a chance to get herself ready at her own pace as she's still recovering. She's doing amazing, but started to feel bad about me not getting any sleep. I told her it's okay and that I'm fine with it, but last night, before I put our son to bed, I asked my wife if she could watch the kids for a moment while I went to the bathroom. When I came back, she had obviously been crying. I immediately went into panic mode, but she calmed me down, explaining that her menty-b moment was caused by her feeling like she wasn't doing enough, and that she felt horrible that I was choosing to stay with our daughter rather than getting any sleep. I understood her, and she sent me to bed when she woke up this morning after I got a night of intermittent sleep. I know I shouldn't feel like an asshole, but I always overthink, and as a dad, I never feel like I'm doing enough, or what I do compares to what my wife does. She's amazing and just went through childbirth, and I want to give her the time that she needs to recover. Am I the asshole? In the comments, let me make sure I have this straight. This thread is about both parents feeling like jerks because they feel like they aren't doing enough to help the other parent rest. This has to be a humble brag, right? No assholes here, and let your wife know not to worry. She did the heavy lifting the last trimester, really the whole pregnancy, and that you're happy to carry the load a bit until you can't, and by then, she should be rested enough that you two can walk forward together. OP says, a bit of both, but I truly do feel like I need to be doing more. I want to prove that not every man is just doing the bare minimum and that I can take care of our kids and be trusted just as much as mothers are by default. Look, I get where the mentality is coming from, but at this point, she's been with you for so long and you've already raised one child together. What is left to prove? If you were going to be like other men, it would have been in the first pregnancy. Why are you still killing yourself for no good reason? Stop torturing yourself with sleep deprivation just to prove a point. You're not, fooling anyone. You're only hurting yourself here. What's wrong with you? I think it's more than okay for her to be genuinely concerned for your mental health and your physical health because you're constantly putting yourself out of your way to sleep deprive yourself. See things from her perspective too, please. And now, onto the update. For a little context, I felt like the asshole because I made my wife cry while leaving her with the kids, regardless of telling her that it was A, only for a trip to the bathroom, and B, necessary for me to sleep in our own bed. Secondly, I currently have 6 weeks off of work for child bonding, so work is no sweat as of now. Thirdly, whomever commented that we should take shifts, you all get cookies. We discussed taking shifts starting tonight, with me taking the night/early mornings, and finally, there is a whole host of backstory on why we are both a bit emotional. This is our second child, but our third pregnancy. Nif, our daughter, is our rainbow baby who we thought that we wouldn't have. Not just for the reason mentioned, but we nearly divorced 2 years prior in a particularly nasty way. A commenter found one of my previous posts and asked why I stayed with her. For context, almost 2 years ago, we were drinking at a friend's birthday party and some very hurtful things were said that couldn't be taken back. Even after sobering up, I was too hurt to move on, and I told her that I wanted to divorce. We both knew that it was because alcohol was the problem, and she swore that she would get help. The idea that we needed CC and IC was also thrown in. We both uncovered problems that needed resolving. Long story short, we focused on fixing the problems in ourselves and our marriage, and started breaking generational cycles. Unfortunately, a lot of roadblocks came our way during our healing. My good friend of 10+ years cut me off for choosing to give my wife another chance, her mum got arrested, we moved into a smaller house, another friend tried to break us up, my father passed away. I could go on. But you get the point. Fast forward to October 2023. We're in such a spot that we have both been sober since that party, and we were more in love with each other than ever, and we talked about a second baby. We find out that she's pregnant in mid-October and start planning to reveal for Thanksgiving for family. Then, a few days after Halloween, she miscarries. This is where the feeling of not doing enough comes in. I am at work, 35 miles away, when she needs to go to the hospital, and the person who she thought was her best friend for 8-ish years chooses not to go with her. So she had to go by herself, on top of trying to wrangle and stay strong for a rambunctious toddler. I felt horrible, and even with therapy, I haven't really been able to move on from that. So when she got pregnant with our daughter, I did every little thing for her with gusto, obviously leading up to and exceeding past the birth, evolving into a mantra of, I will be the best husband and father that I can humanly be. Okay, David Goggins. Which leads to another common comment that I've been seeing, her menty-b moment. We both have a dark sense of humor and make light of our pain before helping each other through a problem. So her saying that she had a menty-b, she was just breaking the ice of her problem, leading to the related problems some people seem to have. A little bit of crying is not a mental breakdown. A, you have no right to say someone is or isn't going through something, regardless of circumstance. And B, I downplay because privacy. But I guess I need to say that while I went to the bathroom and our son was in his room and our newborn was fast asleep, my wife sobbed at her hands and knees, fearing that she might fall down that path again, and I was only taking on so much responsibility because she's afraid that I'm only preparing to take them in case she does spiral. When someone posts something a bit vague, it's not necessarily for ulterior motives. Counterpoint, provide this information, what's wrong with you? If you're vague, all we can do is assume. This post was made to answer any question people had regarding the other one and to give background on our marriage, so I may not update again. I do sincerely thank everyone who was kind in the comments, especially all the mums who mentioned the 5 days thing. It gave my wife a laugh and some relief. In the comments, Accurate Prompt 8800 says, "Hey OP, thanks for the update. I'm so glad that you managed to have a conversation with her about this. You're a good husband and father, and she will appreciate all the support that you are giving her. I'm glad the 5 days suggestion made her laugh. That's just what you need to do. Keep joking with her if that's what she enjoys. Just continue to be there to support her. And make sure you look after yourself as best you can. Stay strong, you're doing a fab job. You'll both be okay." OP says, "Something she told me was, you don't get an achievement for getting X amount of sleep. All I can say is therapy has done wonders. Having a moment of crying and then stopping to explain yourself and rationalizing it is not a mental breakdown. It's like a Tuesday and Friday and Sunday with a new baby." She was 5 days postpartum. She was being so rational. I bawled over so much trivial shit those first 2 weeks. Yeah, look, can't say I've been postpartum myself, so I can't relate, unfortunately. But yeah, her saying you don't get an achievement for getting X amount of sleep, I agree with her. And I don't agree with your decision to leave out critical information about the menty-b, because your explanation of it makes a lot of sense and doesn't make me think, oh shit, she's going through postpartum depression, she is a danger to herself, she is a danger to your children, you need to do something now. And instead it was, she was having a moment. We all have a moment, and that's okay. But don't start this shit getting passive-aggressive at people that were just looking out for your best interests. I hate it when people do that. Oh, you didn't know the full story? What's wrong with you making wild assumptions based off of very little information I gave? You people are sick in the head. I hate you. Regardless, I'm glad everything's working itself out. I'm very glad you're going to therapy. That's really good to hear. Didn't expect that you guys had such a crazy 2023 to 2024 year. Glad that you guys made it through that one. That sounds like a mess. You're like the exception to the rule of stories that we have here on Am I the Arsehole? And I'd love to know everything. I'd love it if you spilt the tea on all of those interactions, because that was a fascinating little gem that you snuck in there. Our next post is by user Kathleen70, titled, Am I the asshole for showing my friend how to set a timer on his son's computer to make him get off it by a certain time, making his son be angry at me? My 55 female friend, 35 male, has a 10-year-old son, who for the past month on the weekends would go beyond his curfew of 9 p.m. to get off the computer and to get ready for bed by 10 p.m. He would get off the computer like at around midnight, but in the middle of the night, my friend would hear his son's computer turn on at around 3 a.m. I went over to bring him some boxes as he and his son are moving to a new apartment in a new city in 3 weeks. While we were sitting down and drinking coffee and shooting the breeze about the joys of moving, thankfully, he had paid vacation time and PTO that he hadn't used up yet. He made mention about his son on the weekends staying up past 9 p.m. curfew on getting off the computer to get ready for bed, and then hearing him get up in the middle of the night to play on the computer. I made an offhand suggestion about setting a timer for his computer to turn off. He looked at me like I grew 2 heads. He asked, "Is that even possible?" I was like, "Yeah, just look on the computer." We had to look up how to put it on by Googling it. He never knew that he could set a timer for the computer to turn off. He even Googled if it was possible to set the timer to allow the computer to be turned on. I didn't even think that was possible until we found it on Google. Then we got the son's computer set to turn off at 9 p.m. and wake up at 6 a.m. He was very proud of himself for setting it up. I had told him that his son will get used to the boundaries now. Do tell him the consequences of his actions has warranted a new punishment if he doesn't follow curfew by getting off the computer by 9 p.m. Well, I got a phone call that night from my friend. His son was pissed off about his computer turning off at 9 p.m. I could hear his son screaming at him for being a bad father and that he's going to be reported for this at school. I told him that the school won't do anything beyond asking what you did. You might want to drop him off and go speak with the principal about this, so whatever your son tries to get you in trouble with would be cancelled out by you talking to the principal, and the teacher probably would be sent a message pertaining to him so he cannot get you into any trouble, since this happens at the library and at our school computers too. My friend asked me if we did the right thing by doing this to him. I told him that we did do the right thing, that he has to learn how to make do with the time that he has on the computer before it shuts down, just like he has when he goes to the public library on Saturday, as the computers there shut down at 4:45 p.m. His son has been constantly screaming at him for allowing me to destroy his computer time, and it's been constant for the last 2 weeks. I seriously feel like I'm the asshole in this, as I cheated his son out of being responsible with his computer time. But his dad asked me for advice, and I gave it, and his dad did it. In the comments, Agnar Krakenhammer says, "Not the asshole. Child is throwing a childish tantrum. Dealing with them is part of being a parent." OP replies, "That's what I told my friend, but he feels like he's also the asshole. I told him that you told him there will be consequences, and now he has them. He'll get used to it." Flyin' Rustbucket replies, "He is indeed an asshole to himself and his son for not setting the boundary early enough. Not only for this, but for allowing his son to regularly cross that boundary and then boo-hooing when he has to deal with his son dealing with actual consequences. This guy hasn't done any favors for himself or for his son until you stepped in. Absolutely not the asshole. Kids shouldn't be walking all over their parents' rules, regardless of how anybody else feels about those rules." Pumpkin Powerful says, "Not the asshole. Children need structure and boundaries. This is no different than having a bedtime set at 9 p.m. to have to turn the TV off and go to bed." So the kid threatening to report the parent to his school for parenting is nonsense. The school will probably laugh at him. I know I would if he complained about this. OP replies, his school had already been informed about it the next day about the new timer on the computer. The principal thinks that this is a genius idea to enforce curfew for the kid, since the kid has been in trouble with falling asleep in class. He actually asked, "How did you do it?" My friend told him that he and his best friend Googled it and set it up. He told me that the principal is putting it in the monthly school newsletter that is sent out to all the parents. He said this might help the parents keep the kids from becoming too obsessed about being online all the time. I mean, fair enough. You have to have these kids respect your boundaries and respect you as a parent. If he's been throwing tantrums for 2 weeks straight and you haven't cracked down on it, I fault you as the parent for not getting your kid in line. What's going on with that? They should have like 1 or 2 nights of tantrums max, and it should be shut down by then. I understand I'm not a parent and I haven't been through this and I haven't done this before, but I just think that 2 weeks of tantrums is ridiculous. Is that not a fault in parenting and his parenting style that has led to this, ridiculous behavior from his kid? I know my ass had tantrums back in the day. I wanted one of those handheld Mega Man games, and I threw an absolute fit until I got one. And I can understand my mum in that instance. She gave in to it. She gave me what I wanted. But I know that I took that as an excuse to keep pushing boundaries and try to get more out of her, and she pushed back. She held firm on her boundaries and she didn't let it keep going. I'm glad that she did that for me because it taught me healthy boundaries. It taught me respect. And now, onto the update. So I showed my friend this thread this morning at breakfast, and he sends his thanks to everyone for their comments, and since I had posted, he has moved to his new home in his new city. He has told his son that actions have consequences. He has been a bit lax on the punishment as he had to work 2 jobs to keep a roof over their heads and everything else. Until last month, when his boss gave him a nice raise and a bonus for his hard work, which warranted the move to the new apartment, which is closer to his job, and he's quit the other job so that he could focus more on his son. With him being the sole parental unit that his son has, he has admitted that he allowed him to be without severe punishments, which got us to this thread as he was worried about his sleep schedule for school. His son has gotten used to the timer on the computer, and he's doing better as he and his son had a long talk about the computer, and his son admits that he was getting too attached to his computer and the games that he plays on there. To which I'm impressed with how open his son was with realizing that he was getting too attached to something that was causing him problems. His son has accepted the timer in the end, and the doubt that he did wrong by his son no longer troubles his mind. He thanks everyone, even those who told him that he was a bad dad. He is learning and he is growing. In the comments, Del Monte says, "Sometimes a parent just has to be the bad guy in their children's point of view. So many parents are afraid of being the bad guy, and you can see it in their children's behavior." Dreamsnap says, I would argue that they are doing much greater harm than what you can see with their immediate behavior. People tend to focus, even parents, on immediate behavior because, frankly, it's what interferes with their life the most. But this is a kid who isn't learning to emotionally regulate when they don't get their way. And that's a huge problem. If it internalizes as they get older, you start to see anxiety and depression. If it externalizes, you'll see teenage and adults acting out, and that can become dangerous. Because disappointment is a part of life. Hearing the word no is just a part of life. Absolutely. You need to be able to tell your child no. It is so detrimental to their development to never say no. You can't always be the fun parent. It's just not the way to go. And I appreciate him for stepping up and starting the hard work that should have been started ages ago, but the next best day to start is today. And that's very much commendable that he is able to put his ego aside and be like, you know what? Yeah, I did mess up. I was a bad parent. I will do better for my son. I respect that. Our next post is by a deleted user, and it's titled, "I'm tired of my ex-husband's wife wanting to be my friend just because he cheated on us both. I don't understand why I'm in this situation, and honestly I'm frustrated because even my own family tells me that I'm the bad one here. I just need to vent, and I don't need any advice or somebody telling me, do this, I think you should tell her this, or I would write her this or this." Okay, pop off. More than 17 years ago, my ex-husband cheated on me with a woman that I didn't know, but she knew me. He left me for her. Our only daughter was a baby, and I just moved on with my life. I'm never going to fight for a man who makes immature decisions without first thinking about the consequences. He married that woman. I went on with my life, preferring to have a healthy co-parenting for my daughter. He never showed remorse, and he even told me that ours was always a mistake and that woman was the love of his life. That helped me to realize that he's a total dick and that I don't need a man like that in my life. Now he's cheated on her, and for some reason, this woman who always had a really cold and distant relationship with me is insisting in trying to talk with me every day. I found out about the infidelity from my daughter, who wasn't affected by that, so I didn't think too much about it. The only thing that worried me was to know if he was going to be able to continue having our daughter at his house on weekends, as always. But his wife started sending me messages explaining what happened when I never asked her that. And in the past, I only spoke to her if her husband didn't answer my texts to ask something about my daughter. It's obvious that she needs to talk about it. Doesn't matter if I answer dryly because she sends me long audios talking about it anyway. I mean, I understand that she needs to talk about her husband's infidelity and blah blah blah, but why me? I don't want to be rude, but I don't care how she or he feels. In one of her audios, she says, "You know how I feel." Like, I guess? But that was 17 years ago. It's not the same. And if I'm being 100% honest, she can't compare herself to me at all. A woman who has just given birth to whom her husband tells her that he has been cheating on her for a long time with another woman who is not boring in bed and does know how to value him, versus a woman who always knew that her husband is unfaithful and decided to marry him anyway. Anyway, I've tried to ignore her as much as I can, but even when I talk to my family or friends about this, almost all of them told me things like, "Oh, but she must feel lonely. But she wasn't to blame for being the other one. I think you should be more empathetic. We all need someone to talk to." Or my favorite one, "She's not to blame for him being a cheater. You should understand her because she needs help." What is wrong with these people? Jesus. I understand that she's not to blame and he's the cheater, but she, a totally adult woman at that time, decided to marry a man that she knew was sleeping with her while his wife was pregnant. So why should I now carry the weight of helping her when she never helped me by telling me, "Hey, your husband slept with me and that's really shitty because he's married with you?" Or, "That's what I'd do if a married man flirted with me." And now, if she didn't do any of that, then why is it my duty as a feminist to force myself to be her friend? It doesn't make sense. And the worst thing is that almost all the women around me tell me that I should help her and be her ear when I don't want to feel empathy for her or for him. I think she and he knew very well what they were getting into. I don't understand why I should be her free therapist now. Being cheated on is not my whole personality. I don't need to talk about that 24/7 with her. I just chose to ignore her, and that's what I'm going to continue doing because I just don't care how she feels, even if I'm a bad feminist for not feeling empathy. Edit, no, I can't block her because she's still living with him, and I need to have her contact in case of an emergency with my daughter. And honestly, it's weird to have so many comments and even private messages from people wanting to tell me what I should send to her and even writing what I feel. I'm sorry, but there's no way that I'm going to use the message of a stranger who doesn't know me, or how I feel, or the whole situation to say something to someone. I feel like a lot of people in the comments are reflecting their own traumas. In the comments, Worth Mammoth says, "I would be brutally honest with her like you were in the post." You're absolutely right. I think you can't compare your situation 17 years ago and now. She knew what she was going into. She has made her bed and has to lie in it. You're not her therapist. If you ask me, she also has to take the blame for sleeping with a married husband, knowing his wife is bringing his child into the world. Your family is... I don't even know how to describe it. Your mum just trying to justify her own actions with that? Ew. OP says, "At one point I thought about being totally honest, but then I thought that would only bring unnecessary problems if they get back together, because it seems like that. I just answer things like, 'What a shame,' or the "nyeh" emoji, and she sends me audios of more than 2 minutes that I don't usually listen to because I don't care." My god, she is the #1 yapper, and it's obvious that she has no social awareness, given everything, but given the fact that you're like, "Damn man, that's crazy." She just yaps at you for 2 minutes. Why can't people just get therapists? Like, go to a therapist and yap to them about it. I don't care. Stop venting your feelings to strangers, especially strangers that you did wrong to. It's crazy that she can't see how wrong she is for putting this on you. I really hope that I never get knocked on the head and become that delusional, because that sounds like a living hell. And now, onto the update. First of all, my mother was a lover for a long time when I was a teenager and during my adulthood. Their relationship lasted long, years until he died. I think his wife never found out about his affair. That's why my mum manipulates me so much into not judging my ex's wife, because no one chooses who to fall in love with. My mother always reflected herself on that woman, and that's why she said that to my ex-husband and his lover, now wife, are soulmates, and I shouldn't get in the way. I was very young. At the time, I could only lean on my mother for a little bit of support, and well, narcissists always catch vulnerable people. Nowadays, I don't have much contact with her, but my daughter spends time with my family. And about my friends, well, I'm a feminist activist, and opinions regarding lovers are divided because most of them are in the liberal side. Most of the times, it's seen as something misogynistic to judge them because they are single women and the man is the one we should blame. Plus, we need to be sororas with other girls. So I expected that reaction from most of them. I agree with that in most cases, but not in this one. I can feel empathy when the woman did not know or when she is a minor being groomed, but in this case, I don't feel any pity because she knew damn well what she was doing. Women can also be mean and cruel. Women can also choose to be the bad guys in the story without someone manipulating us, because we are not weak, and my ex's wife is that kind of woman. No one manipulated her into doing anything. I'm sorry, that explanation was perhaps unnecessary, but there were people who didn't understand my family's and friends' behavior, and honestly, it feels good to vent. I have spoken with my ex's wife, because honestly, a few days ago, I had a really stressful day, and the last thing that I needed was to see her messages in my WhatsApp, so I just exploded. I planned to continue ignoring her, but that day I was upset about things about my work, and I ended up telling her everything. I sent her an audio telling her that I'm not interested in her life or in the fact that she's suffering. I told her that I'm not her friend, nor am I interested in being one. She never asked me for forgiveness, and now she expects me to start the group of women cheated on by my ex. I told her other things, and I would love to be able to post audios here. I told her that she knew very well what she got herself into. She knew well that my ex was capable of cheating on the mother of his baby, but she still decided to marry him and live this stupid fantasy that she could change him and that she was different from all of the other women that he was with. God, I hate long audios, but it was over 5 whole minutes telling her that her situation and mine are nothing alike. I think that was my greatest catharsis. She got upset, and we started arguing. It was quite tiring, and the last thing I want is to have problems after 17 years of having normal co-parenting. I know that they are not going to get divorced, and that means that I'll have to live with her in my life forever, so I sent a message to my ex, resending him one of the audios that she sent me. I took the work to listen to them all, and she never apologized to me. I don't need her apologies, by the way. I don't care, but some comments asked me about that. They were just audios complaining and wanting us both to speak badly about him or wanting to have me as her free therapist. I told my ex to tell his wife to calm down and pay for a psychologist. He apologized to me and told me that they're both working on the marriage, so they're at the stage where she still feels angry and insecure with him. Like, yes, obviously, idiots. So since I suffered the same, no, it's not the same, she felt that we could share that pain. He told me that they started going to the online conferences of I don't know what couple who teach how to get over an infidelity. Sometimes I feel envious of people who can scam others so easily. Anyway, I told him that I am not friends with her and that this affects our co-parenting, so he should put a stop to her if she doesn't understand what I say. In the end, he reluctantly told me that he was going to talk to her, and I've gone 3 days without any message from her. Except today, one where she just told me that my daughter was sleeping there, so I guess it worked. I don't care if they live a happy or miserable marriage. I don't care if she's happy knowing that he cheated on her but stays with him anyways. I just want to live in peace without getting into trouble with people who at 40 plus years old are still living mentally in high school. In the comments, Pink Threaded Wrist says, she wants to have a pity club with the cheated on ex-wife while working on the relationship? That's rich. Calling Water says, at least Opie's ex seemed to have put a stop to it. Perhaps he realized that a Why He Sucks club wasn't to his benefit. Yeah, glad that it sorted itself out, but yeah, Why He Sucks club is crazy. Why is she still with him is my question. Why are you venting with the ex about him cheating on you? If you're staying with him, what's going on? This doesn't make any sense. Do people like this really exist? Has anyone here actually experienced people like this? Again, it's just levels of craziness I never wish to experience myself. My God, put me out of my misery if I'm ever caught in between something like this. Anyway, thank you for the story, OP. That was wildly entertaining. And that's where I'm going to end today's episode, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.